Welcome, everybody, to the Scale Up Show. This is your host, Ryan Staley, and I have a very special guest with me today. I have Mario Martinez Jr., who is the CEO and founder of Vengreso. Something really unique about Mario is we're going to get into his disruptive mindset, decode his success strategies, and tap into his knowledge of how he transformed a sales training company into a SaaS company that's thriving right now and doing some really cool things. Mario, welcome. Happy to have you on the show, man.
Ryan, my man, I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me, bro.
No problem, man. I'm happy. We're favorite movie brothers, right? We identified on Mario's podcast that our favorite movie is Goonies, right? So if anybody wants a secret path to our hearts, hit us up with some Goonies swag, and we will remember you forever. But
Absolutely, yeah.
Not to get distracted on that. Before we get deep into your story, because you definitely have a unique one that I would love to share with you, the listener, is let's get into where you're at in the stage of the journey right now with your company. So ballpark, where are you guys at in terms of your ARR?
Good question. So we actually launched in August of last year, 2022. And from then till now, we're sitting at about $130,000 in ARR.
Nice.
And a little over 5,000 global users on the platform called FlyMSG, which happens to be a text expander platform and soon to be an AI writing platform as well, that we'll be able to launch for some really amazing use cases. And the journey has been it was a 12-month long plan to get us to where we were, from converting from what we used to be to what we are now.
That's awesome. We're going to have to dig into that because that's, like I said, a very unique path. So what's your primary go-to-market strategy right now in terms of how you're executing in terms of growing the company?
Good question. So right now for our focus, it's a product-led growth strategy with a sales-led growth motion. What do I mean by that? Well, if you think about product-led growth, it's really going out and having the masses. So Johnny at company ABC tells Susie, tells Mary, tells Billy, tells Bobby, and then you end up with 100 users at company ABC, and then that turns into what's called a sales-led growth motion. So product-led growth driven by sales-led growth, that's the motion that we're going to market with. In terms of how we're acquiring users, believe it or not, let me try that again. Believe it or not, we have mastered the art of content marketing as well as search engine optimization. We're not where we want to be in terms of driving the total number of users per day. That's roughly about 500 users per month that we're driving onto the platform. And I want to get to 5,000 in terms of per month. So we got a long ways to go, but going from nothing to something and using all organic without any advertising has been the way that we've driven most of our users. Along with myself and my co-founder, both of us are respectfully influencers on the social media side as well as the sales side. So we've obviously helped contribute to that in a significant way as well, using social media influence.
Excellent. And I think that's really strong and a huge opportunity. What platforms are you most dominant on, or that you spend the most time on?
So for me, it's LinkedIn and Twitter. That's where most of the B2B sales folks would be: sales folks, sales reps, sales leaders, sales enablement leaders, and marketing leaders. And for my co-founder, actually very similar, but she's expanded out now into TikTok and Instagram, which is exactly where we want her to be able to attract the knowledge worker, which is who we're going after now under the FlyMSG platform.
Oh, okay. Excellent. So you're kind of dividing and conquering, I should say, in terms of the platform. So that's awesome. So walk us through FlyMSG. What is it exactly, and kind of what does it do?
So FlyMSG is a text expander platform today in its current use. So think of, as an example, that Google Doc, Word Doc, OneNote, Evernote, Notepad, Notebook, draft email, where you store all of your messages that you use over and over again for answering frequently asked questions for customer support, sales prospecting messages, say on LinkedIn or email, or maybe you're a recruiter, or maybe you're an HR representative, or maybe you are onboarding somebody from HR as an example, or maybe you're a doctor, lawyer, physician of some type, any specific type, or even a college professor who's built out a course syllabi of messaging to students on a week-over-week basis. So FlyMSG basically allows you to take all of those messages that you've stored somewhere offline and allows you to put them into the cloud and create what's called shortcuts or short codes, or what we call fly cuts. And with a few short keystrokes, you literally can build out an entire message anywhere you want, anywhere online. And the benefit that FlyMSG brings is there is snippet technology, as what it's called, has been around for a long time. It's inside of Salesforce. It's inside of HubSpot. Even Google has some of these items. But the problem is Salesforce and HubSpot platforms, as an example, or even Zendesk, they only work in one or two places. And as a knowledge worker, if I'm a salesperson, if I'm a CEO, if I'm an accounts payable person, if I'm a customer support rep, as a customer support rep, I may be on right now Twitter answering questions, and an hour later on email, an hour later on a Drift chat bot through my website, and an hour after that on LinkedIn, and an hour after that through our service desk. So that's 5 different SaaS applications that I travel, and there's no one application that will give you these shortcuts across all of those platforms. And that's what FlyMSG brings to the table in terms of text expansion. And now what we're actually doing is launching this and integrating FlyMSG into a user's workflow. And what do I mean by that? Meaning we're embedding it directly into Gmail, directly into Outlook, directly into LinkedIn, directly into LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And then what's in development right now is all the AI writing components. So you may write your own messages, you may have your own templates, but now you want FlyMSG to actually write for you, or reply for you to a message, or reply for you on a comment to a post of some sort on LinkedIn. Well, we'll be able to do all those things very specifically with FlyMSG to help a user really save time. And on average, our users that are using the platform save about an hour or more per day in helping to reduce the amount of typing that they would normally, to have to either type a whole message out, or go find that message, copy that message, paste the message, edit the message. And we're eliminating pretty much all of those things. And it even gets worse, Ryan, if you think about it. Many folks don't actually have their messages stored in a Google Doc, Word Doc, OneNote, Evernote, Notepad, Notebook, or draft email. Rather, what they do is they go and hunt and peck for it inside their sent folder. And then they spend 15 minutes just looking for a message. So the productivity problem that knowledge workers are facing is an insane, crazy large problem. In fact, users reported from around the globe that 83% of the time, 83% of all users said that they actually use the same message over and over again, at least one time or more inside of a month. 61% of those same set of users said they do it daily, right? So this is a major issue that we're trying to solve, and it all stemmed as a result of our sales training program.
Well, so real quick, where did you get those stats from? Like in terms of
those stats actually came from Loom. Loom actually published in their Loom, I think it's called the Loom Communications. It's escaping me. I can give it to you afterwards, but it came from Loom. They just published it about 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago that talked about some of the challenges that knowledge workers are having.
That's awesome, man. So talk to us about, like, I think that's a great natural transition. Oh, well, a couple other questions. I'm sorry, before we get in. How many people do you have on your team? And then are you bootstrapped or funded? The last 2 questions of the revenue rundown.
We used to be almost upwards of 30 people. Now, as a result of transitioning out of the service model and into a SaaS model, we're sitting at about 7 full-time folks in the organization, and then a handful of part-time individuals across the organization.
Okay.
And in terms of bootstrapped or funded, we are absolutely both. So both Vivica and myself funded the transition period into a SaaS company. And then between August and March of 2023, we raised about $650,000 in terms of funding from various angel investors, a crowdfunding campaign, as well as one specific venture capitalist.
Okay, excellent, man. Okay, so let's talk about how you got here, right? Because you've highlighted that multiple times and really unique transition. So how did you get from, well, first of all, how did you start the sales training company, and then talk to us on how you transitioned and what that looked like and what the journey was like?
So the journey originally started back 7 years ago. I wrote an article that I was laid off voluntarily from the organization, meaning I didn't want to be part of an organization that was churning people. And I wrote an article the day after, put it on LinkedIn, and it was the article that said, "Dad, you said LinkedIn would make you money." And that was a conversation with my 5-year-old. Turns out that article was viewed by several key executives that were there 3 months earlier when I gave a presentation as the vice president of sales for a software collaboration company at LinkedIn's annual users conference. And at that time, I was speaking at LinkedIn's annual users conference, and I had launched a digital sales and social selling training program. And so, as a result of writing this article, identifying that I was no longer employed, several executives who were in the audience saw the article, subsequently reached out to me, and within 3 weeks of losing my job, I was now doing my own business. And that's where it left from there in terms of take off and go. So with that in mind, in that first year, I was on my own, but then I said, this is not working for me. I want it to be bigger. So I performed then a 7-way company merger about a year and 3 months after I started my first company. That was single-handedly the hardest thing I've ever done, and I would never do it again. And in fact, I used to.
7-way merger? Is that what I heard you say?
It was a 7-way, 7-way company merger, all at the same time. And we ripped the Band-Aid off. And I tell you, my hairline used to start right over here, about an inch and a half forward. And it used to be all black. So now it's all gray with a smidgen of black inside there. But yeah, it was a 7-way company merger. And we had 4 of our original founders that stayed with the company up until about almost, I guess it's been about a year, almost 2 years. 2 years ago, as we decided to transition into a SaaS company. And now we still have 2 of our original founders out of those 7, 6 years later. So I did that. And when we formed the 7-way company merger, we became collectively the largest digital sales prospecting training company globally. But now we had to put it all together and start going to market. And we did that. And we maintained that record. We maintained that position for about 5 years in the market. And it was interesting because during that time, our crescendo, our claim to fame, or the things that was the best thing that ever happened to us, was the world's largest sales training company, which was known as Miller Heiman Group, got acquired by Korn Ferry, a $3 billion public recruiting company. Miller Heiman actually, for the first time in their 40-plus year company history, they hired an outside sales training company, and that was Vengreso. And so that was a huge feather in our cap in terms of being able to have that accolade. So what happened is as we did our enterprise training, we launched these playbooks. These were sales messaging playbooks. And it was a 27-page playbook with 60 different sales scripts inside there. And what we observed is sellers were using the playbook for all different use cases: for connecting on LinkedIn, for sending a cold outreach message, for wishing someone a happy work anniversary and converting that into a meeting. So it worked to the extent that we wanted it to work. But then we said, there's got to be a better way. Because not only were we giving a playbook, but sales enablement leaders were giving a playbook. And also sales managers were giving their reps a playbook as well. So inevitably, a seller could have 2 or 3 playbooks that they were using that they had to go and open. And then what they did is they created their own set of, quote, greatest hits. And now you had basically the rogue warriors that were out there that were sending out whatever it is that they want. And now you had a lack of control in terms of brand uniformity, tone, messaging, old product stuff, old articles, etc. So we said, well, what if we were to take all of our sales messages, put them into the cloud? And that was FlyMSG. That was the first introduction of FlyMSG, where basically we added the software on as part of our training program, didn't charge for it. We put it into the cloud, left it open for anybody to download. We only onboarded about 450 folks through our enterprise training program. Now, fast forward 1 year later, that was from December of 2020 when we launched it to December of 2021. And I woke up one morning and I received an alert that a company by the name of PillPack had onboarded their digital pharmacists to our platform.
Okay.
And I thought, what are digital pharmacists doing on a sales productivity platform? And that's where it hit me. I didn't realize this, but guess what? Pharmacists were also using repeatable messages. We received your prescription couldn't be processed, your insurance didn't go through, it's time to, it's been delivered. They were using that to be able to create shortcuts and fly cuts or fly messages, if you would, to deploy this out to their customer base. What was interesting here, Ryan, was I said, well, how many users do we have on the platform? Now I'm curious. And at that time, we had 2,000 users on the platform. And that all happened because Ryan told Billy, Billy told Bobby, Bobby told Mary, Mary told Susie. And that was the only word of mouth marketing that was going on and happening. And so that was in December of 2021. In January of 2022, Vivek and I implemented what we planned to be a 12-month long plan to convert ourselves from a service-based company into a software-based company. And it had various milestones. One of them was August of 2022, when we changed all the messaging on the website, and then we transitioned customers out of the business. So it was a very detailed plan. I'm proud to say that we hit the 12-month plan by making it it was 13 months. So it was pretty darn close in the economy that we're in. And it was a very laser focused plan in terms of how we were going to transition everything out of the business and move everything along.
Well, yeah, congrats on making the change. And I mean, that's a heavy lift, right? When you're doing that. I mean, I don't know if I'd ever want to merge a 7-way merger. That just sounds like you're hazing yourself, right? But
Oh, I absolutely did, bro. I mean, talk about, I'm telling you, in 6 years, someone just saw a picture of me from about 7 years ago. They're like, oh my God, you look so much younger. But I've been in startup mode for basically 7 years.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, dude. My forehead has gotten exponentially bigger. I think just since I started in sales leadership. So I feel you on that one, right? And by the way, he if you're listening, Mario's, still a good looking man, has got everything put together, looks distinguished now, right? That's
I like to think so. I like to think so.
So, but like essentially, just to recap what you said. So it sounds like basically you had playbooks, and then you're just like, screw this. We're just gonna make them available digitally, right? And then that started to catch fire. And then you're like, hey, there's something here. We need to roll with this, and then create this into a product. And then that's kind of how you did it, right? So
that's exactly right. Yeah. And of course we didn't plan that, but I like to say
Right.
I was smart enough that I planned the whole thing out, but I wasn't. I was smart enough, however, to see the trend and then react accordingly.
Yeah, which is brilliant, man, and that's sometimes the best things happen. I mean, even you talk to Sam Jacobs at Pavilion, and I've had him on the show before, and he talked to me about it. He's just like, I didn't originally plan this, like, this wasn't I didn't draw it up on a napkin, and this wasn't the way it was, right? And it was just informal meetings for a couple of years, I think, that eventually turned into that. So I guess, like, how did you? Since you didn't have any technical background experience, right? Like personally, like that, yours is in sales, right? You grew up in the sales world.
Sales and marketing and executive leadership. Yeah. And we had no CTO. And we still don't have a CTO.
So how did you do that, Matt?
Yeah.
That's where a lot of people get stuck, right? Is they don't have a CTO. They're go-to-market experts or sales or marketing lead, whatever, right? So how did you do that?
Yeah. So I will say that if I were to redo this all over again and start over, and hindsight being 2020, I would actually go to market with a technology officer, because that would cut off basically about the last 3 years of my life on trying to learn this side of the house. But interesting question, Ryan, because as I look back at every single milestone that I've ever achieved on a personal career level, it was always tackling something that I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was no different for me. As an example, if you would have asked me 7 years ago, did you know how to become a sales influencer and get paid $25,000, $50,000 for you to go and put social posts in media and speak for a company, right? Did you know how to do that? Or did you know that that was possible? Or did you know how to make that plan? I would have said no to you, right? And so it started to happen. And so now you research, you identify, you make plans, and then you try and you see what works, right? And you adjust very fast. And that's the key, is adjusting very fast as an executive leader. You've got to be able to assess and then take risk. So on this technology side, I definitely outsourced the development into a great development house. Smartly Built was a great partner of ours, and they helped with the first phase of that. And then right after that, I maintained that in-house for about 6 months with a local developer that I had already on the team. And as I began to see that this was needed more love, I went out and hired my first developer. And that first developer is now our engineering manager, who actually heads up all of our application engineering here for the organization. So I definitely have the wicked smart individual. But if I look at the office of the CTO, it's really categorized into three different components. One, it's the technology development. Two, it's product development, product design, and understanding the needs of the business or needs of the users and translating that into technology development. And then three, that's the project management, right? So making sure that you're moving all the pieces in one fell swoop. So if I looked at all those three components, what I decided to do is make the office of the CTO a three-headed group, if you would. Now, are there better ways to do this? Yes, there are. If I were to redo this all over again, would I have a technology officer? Absolutely, I'd go to market with the technology officer. But I didn't. And this is how I went to market. And so with that in mind, I found an amazingly strong project manager who actually now has been helping a lot on product design. That's Santiago Salazar. He's on my team. Love that guy. He's been with me for almost 3 years. And I've moved him along in different roles in different organizations, different departments. And he's killed it at every single one of those stages, right? So I knew that I could bring him along on this journey. Then I had my technology leader, right, who necessarily didn't have the CTO experience, didn't have the UI product design experience, but could take anything that I said, this is what I want to do, and develop it, right? Brilliantly smart guy. And then myself in terms of product design, product development. And that wasn't hard to learn. That was what I did to become a sales leader. It is what I did to become a sales influencer. It is what I also did to become a marketing leader, now being asked to help Fortune 100 companies improve their marketing strategies for social media and content marketing, as an example. So all of those things that I did, which was read, watch videos, apply, that's what I did here. And what I would say is I did that all at the same time as being the CEO and being the chief sales officer as well. So when did I do it? I did it exactly as any other entrepreneur or CEO would do at a SaaS company. And that is, I don't take time for my family. I take time for my sleep. And that's the sacrifice that I make. And you know that you're willing to do it if you are okay with not getting enough sleep. And until the point that you're not okay with it is the point that you'll make change or do something different. So that was really important to me is, like after 5:30, 6 o'clock, with my family, with my kids, we're outside, we're playing, we're doing all the stuff. And then at 9:30, 10 o'clock after everybody goes to bed, now from 10 to 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm back into startup phase and I'm learning and I'm developing, I'm designing, I'm doing all that. And then I turn around and get back and do it at 7 a.m. Again, I would say if I had it a different way, I would do it. But as an executive leader, we're startup leaders. And as a startup leader, you got to be scrappy. You got to make decisions and you got to be able to go all in.
Yeah. No, and props to you for making that sacrifice, man. I mean, that's hard. Well, first of all, two things. Props for you for carving out the time for your family and making that a priority. And then two, like you're making the sacrifice that you need to do at the stage you're at to make it a reality, right? Like, I mean, you see all of it on LinkedIn, like, oh yeah, I work 6 hours a week and give everybody the middle finger that doesn't do that. And I think there's value in that at certain stages of your life and your career, depending on what season it's in. But to just say that, I'm a solopreneur and that's what I do. And, I don't know. There's a lot of viewpoints on that. So anyways, I don't want to get off target on that, but
well, I mean, just one thing I was going to say is again, if you recognize that you're willing to sacrifice your sleep, there'll come a point in time where you say, I don't want to do this anymore. Mm-hmm. But if you sacrifice somebody else, your children's time, your family's time, even something in terms of sales production and sales numbers for the company, right? Or anything else in the company, then it's everybody else that's affected and you don't recognize the pain. And that's why I think it's super important that if you want to be a business owner, a startup founder, a SaaS company, and bring that to market, you better make sure that the only person that is impacting is you. Right now, it doesn't mean you
Mhm.
can't have a champion of support, like maybe your wife is working or your spouse is working and they're holding down the financial burden of the family. You could do that. That's cool. But that's important. I think that a lot of startup founders don't recognize is that they don't make the pain cause to them, because if you have the pain causing it's impacting you, you're going to do one of two things. You're going to either eliminate that pain as fast as you possibly can, which is the incentive that exactly that you're looking for, to get it right and to do it right and do it fast, or you're going to quit, and it's going to be a heck of a lot easier to quit way earlier than it will be downstream.
True. Very true. So let's shift gears a little bit. Let's get back into the business side, because one of the things you mentioned earlier was just like, hey, we're going to shift from, I don't want to say the short code approach, or basically, creating messages on the fly, but also do a writing tool. Why do you think that's a good avenue to go down right now?
Great question. So, one of the things, we definitely raise money and we definitely have investors at the table that are talking to us. And investors are getting the concept of what we're trying to do, and they recognize it. But as I was looking at the evolution of where everybody is going and where everything is going, I also looked at this and started talking to investors and said, hey, if I were to build a platform play that I could do this entire process for the knowledge worker, would that be more attractive? And they're like, absolutely would be more attractive. But also, it accelerates our opportunity to get into the enterprise. Whether that's
Mm-hmm.
small business, medium business, or large enterprise, it would accelerate that opportunity. So for us, in looking at as a text expander, are there competitors out there of ours that solely and exclusively focus on text expansion? Yes. And did they get $30+ million for funding in the last 12 months? Yes. However, what is happening is companies like Grammarly have just become a competitor to FlyMSG. Why? Well, they've released a horrible, crappy text expansion product that only works with simple text, doesn't do any of the things that people want, which is like images and videos and links and all those other things inside there. But nonetheless, they released it so they can have a check the box me too. But if you look at what these companies are doing for the knowledge worker, they're building out a platform. And this is what I predicted would happen over 12 months ago. And what the focus of what our focus has been is not just building out text expansion, but bringing in the whole workflow process of what a knowledge worker does. For example, we talked about storing your messages. Well, what if I had a tool that helped you write that message? All right, awesome. To make those messages visually appealing and attractive to your target audience, whether you're a salesperson, whether you're an internal constituent welcoming a new member to onboard, or whether you're talking to a customer in customer service and support. The name of the game today is not just the written word, it's how you visually draw somebody in to be able to be connected to the message. So what if I were to say to you, Ryan, that not only will we be able to help you write it, but we'll also be able to help you correct all your grammar. So whether you write it or we write it, we're going to correct all the grammar and make sure that it's legit and it makes you look professional. And we're going to help you take visual media content and create that for you. Maybe it's a Giphy, maybe it's an image, maybe it's a visual voicemail. Then once you've got your message, and if you want to use it over and over again, you can categorize it, store it, organize it. Then you can create a short code or quick deployment short codes to be able to deploy that anywhere online. And finally, what if I said to you, once you've deployed that template, whether it be in Salesforce, email, LinkedIn, Twitter, now we're actually going to come alive again and say, hey, you know what, Ryan, you just deployed your FlyMSG, but your template says, hey, Ryan, exclamation point. But Ryan's an old school type of guy. You really should say, hello, Ryan, comma, based on personality insights. Now, if
Mm-hmm.
you have that entire workflow as a user embedded into a single platform, that becomes powerful, as opposed to an individual point solution where you've got to have 4 different applications to do those 4 different things. And that's what we're building with FlyMSG, is not just a point solution, but an actual AI writing and text expansion platform that does all of those things that I just mentioned, plus things that I won't say here on the air because we're not ready to release them yet in terms of really cool factors for the knowledge worker. But those are an example of what the vision is.
So you're looking at this as like a, and I'm just saying that, like a global platform for any knowledge worker to basically integrate into their workflow, right? And just be a part of everything that they do to streamline that time and focus and energy that they have. Correct?
100%. The goal is to streamline the lost productivity, which is about $16 trillion of lost productivity that we spend on a minimum. 25% of our day is spent reading, writing, rewriting, rethinking, just messaging alone at work. Now add in a distraction, a bing, one of those little notifications on your computer screen that pops up that says, oh, you've got a new mail. And we go and off on that. And we have now 75 tabs sitting at the top of our Internet Explorer bar with 25 different applications. And we look back and we're like, oh my God, what was I doing? Add on another 27% of time. So total of 57% of time that is wasted doing all those things. That is lost productivity. Now, if I made you more productive, just one more hour in the day, personally or professionally, what would that do for your health? Or what would that do for the business or the company that you work for that you can drive more productivity out of that individual knowledge worker? Whether you're a salesperson, HR, enablement, marketer, accounts payable, you name it, what would that do for the company? That's a tremendous cost savings, and that's what we're seeing out there.
Yeah. Hour a day is a lot. So love that vision. I think I mean, I love that. So one other thing, and I know we're getting close on time, so that's why I'm like circling back here, is you talked about like one of the single best ways to grow your business was the SEO and the content play, and you're doing it even though you've had investors on like in a bootstrapped, cost efficient way, right? So like, what's your formula for that, right? Because like there's a lot of really there's a lot of views on how to do that and execute effectively, but how are you doing that to really drive in and drive up the monthly users that you're bringing in?
So it's the exact same process that I rolled out with to become a sales influencer, exact same process that we built to be able to have a 98 million social media impressions at our heydays when we had all of our founders that were driving visibility to Vengreso. And it's the same play that we use to this very day. Here's the secret formula. Anybody who's listening in, any SaaS startup founder, write this down. I want you to spend whatever it takes, 10 minutes, 20 hours, doesn't matter. Write down 20 questions that your buyer is asking to solve the problem that your product solves. Example, how can I have ubiquitous messaging? How can I speed up, in FlyMSG's case, how can I speed up the amount of time that is wasted on responding to emails? So you write down all these questions that lead to your solution, and you build a short video in 3 minutes or less with an answer that answers that particular question. Mm-hmm. Then you turn that 3-minute video into a content piece, and you now start evangelizing that content piece, whether it be a blog article, an ebook. And if you really want to go all out, it's going to cost you a little bit of money, or you can learn how to do it yourself, podcasting. So as an example, we call it account-based podcasting. It's one of the strategies that we have shown in our old days. I create a podcast, and it's towards a target buyer if it's specifically to the enterprise, maybe not so much PLG, but specifically to the enterprise. And I go out and ask, let's just say I'm selling to CMOs. I go out and ask the 100 CMOs that I want to do business with if they want to be on a podcast and share their thought leadership. Well, guess what? In that 1 hour that I spend with them and prepping, getting to know them, going over the questions, guess what I get to do? Build a relationship. And then those 100 people can turn into, at the end of the podcast, which is, by the way, do you know what we do? And then you turn it into an easy appointment. And that's the single best way to be able to get your target buyer on. not only did we create millions of dollars in our training business from that strategy, but about 20% of my guests that have been on my podcast became investors in Vengreso.
Oh, no way. That's awesome, man.
So
So,
it's a tactic. That's how you be able to go out there and source your leads, create content, and then of course there's some phenomenal AI tools that I'm happy to showcase or talk about. I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but
no, go
that
for
will
it,
help
man.
you. Yeah,
Sure.
so there's a couple tools that are out there that will help you scale content pretty rapidly. One of them is Surfer SEO and their AI writing capability. So you put a topic in, do some keyword research on that, see what the volume is. If it says, hey, this is a good volume, it's got good search, you have the SEO write, Surfer SEO AI write the article for you. That gets you about 60% of the way there. And then you spend another 2 to 3 hours, slam out that particular piece of content. Or you can go to content, I think it's called Content at Scale, is the other platform that does also the writing. And there's a couple other platforms that are out there as well. But these platforms will help you scale your content and you start driving blog content to your website. And if you look at Vengreso, I've got companies like Oracle, Salesforce, HubSpot coming to me because of the domain authority that we've built up over the last 6 years that they want to link back from my website. So do those types of things and you'll scale the organic SEO.
Love that, man. Do you use Ahrefs at all, that tool, or
We
no?
use a competitor to Ahrefs, which is SEMrush. So SEMrush is a tool that does a lot of the analytics, tells you what's happening on your website. It's not complete, in my opinion, so you're always having to use multiple tools. We use Ubersuggest and SEMrush, which is a competitor to Ahrefs. And then we use the Surfer SEO and the Content at Scale, and then the good old-fashioned just research, hardcore research.
Love that, man. Well, we are just about up on time, and it was a great. I mean, dude, I love chatting with you. It was a lot of fun. Love your energy. So, where can people find you? Where can they find out more about Vengreso? And then we'll wrap things up, man.
Yep. So Vengreso is just the holding company for, it's like, think of it as Meta and Facebook or Alphabet Soup in Google. FlyMSG.io. You could type in FLYMSG for message or the long form, MESSAGE.io, FlyMessage.io. And to connect with me, you're certainly welcome to reach out on LinkedIn. But when you send me a connection request, don't just hit connect. Say you heard me on Ryan's show here, the podcast, and tell me what you heard so that I know it's a legitimate listener, and that then I will accept your connection request message, because I only have a very small number of people that I can add to my connections, because you're kind of getting at that limit.
Well, Mario, it was a pleasure having you on the show. Make sure you look him up on LinkedIn and reach out and connect to him, or check out the website so that you can get access to basically FlyMessage, which looks like an amazing tool. I haven't used it yet personally, but I intend to try it. So thanks for being on, Mario. It was a pleasure, man.
Ryan, thank you so much for having me, buddy. I appreciate it.
All right. I will see you on the next episode.